In terms of my overall carbon footprint, it came to a total of 31.1 kilograms of carbon. The breakdown was I did 457 kilometers of cycling on the trip. This produced 9.6 kilograms of carbon. However, I think the statistic I used didn't include cycling with weight, because obviously having to put in more effort per kilometre to move this extra weight. And the higher than average bike breakages I had, I managed to bust the back wheel in the first week and broke a pannier rack, that sort of stuff. As a result of these breakages, I had to take 63 kilometres on a bus, which added 6.4 kilograms of carbon to my footprint. Then I had to take the total for the trains on my journey. I had to take 2 trains, one to catch up with a bit of time I'd lost because of the breakages, and the other because the ferry had crashed and we had to make alternative plans quickly. The train added 2.9 kilograms of carbon to my footprint, with a total distance covered of 83 kilometers. Then the ferry, or the ferries, shall I add, I went from, Mallaig onto Skye, and then cycled off of the bridge, and then had to go from Ullapool onto Harris instead of Uig, on Skye onto Harris. The second option would have been a lower carbon footprint, but we were rolling with the punches. The ferries added 10.4 kilograms of carbon to my total footprint, and that was over the distance of 112 kilometers total. Then Alex and Liz kindly drove me and Hugh to Scaladale, which added 1.7 kilograms of carbon to my personal, once we'd split the carbon between us, to my carbon footprint. And that was around 40 kilometers of driving. Overall, I'd say I'd had quite a low carbon footprint, despite having to take some public transport and not just cycling all of the way up to Harris. Comparably, this is a much more sustainable option when compared to individuals that drive to Harris or perhaps take all public transport. However, I'd say a big downside of what I've done is it took multiple days and it took a rather lot of time, but it was really good fun. You met some really nice people on the way, which is definitely a benefit of visiting the place. But I visited other places on my journey as well, so it was certainly a very enjoyable experience. I'd say it was one of the wider benefits, just even the travel to the Outer Hebrides. It was beautiful. Another benefit of me visiting the Outer Hebrides was obviously, as a tourist, you're bringing in income to the area, which supports local businesses, perhaps that rely on tourism. Certainly supporting the Cormac ferry staff, who are paid to get people on and off of the island. They do a very good job, it seems, unless they crash the ferry, going from Uig to onto Harris. Other benefits of visiting Harris include, I guess it's a bit of a staycation, so it's already a lower carbon footprint when compared to maybe travelling abroad. However, if you had to travel from perhaps Cornwall all the way up, you might be able to have a lower carbon footprint if you visited France, perhaps via the train goes under the sea. I can certainly understand how other visitors to Harris could create some uproar in local community through not understanding some of their practices, or I guess just not being as responsible in the outdoors. There was still quite a bit of litter at the roads occasionally, especially in the built-up areas, which is a real shame to see on such a beautiful island. I also recently talked to some people staying in at a small VW camper, and they're local to Scotland, but they got told by some bar staff, don't urinate on the lobster pots. And why would we urinate on the lobster pots? But clearly people have done that, and clearly it's unacceptable, at least from my perspective. But I don't know, perhaps some people see it as, I don't know, It's not sustainable though. It's not good for the local community. I guess in terms of things I've learned from this trip, there's many more beautiful places in Scotland that are just waiting to be visited and explored, which is really nice to know. I definitely want to see more of Scotland and more of the Outer Hebrides and Harris. Me and the other people on my on the exploration phase, Jack and Hugh, we were discussing how before we'd even left, before we were even halfway through our exploration phase, how we were going to come back here and do more sea cliff climbing, which was really nice. On the way on our journey, we met some lovely people. I was absolutely blown away by the friendliness of them and their generosity. We went to a cafe and we asked to, we wanted to buy some coffee, and they just gave us a cafetiere full of coffee without even charging us. And we're like, no, we can pay, we want to pay. We want to help support this community because it's amazing. And they're like, no, don't worry about it. And we're like, this is so kind of you. It was really, really pleasant, just a really nice thing to happen. And we also were given, any questions, there was always, you can just chat to anyone, it seems like. And yeah, I guess it seems like a bit more, maybe not camaraderie, but it seems like everyone knows that everyone else is like a human too, which sounds like a really dumb thing to say, but I think often, especially in cities and all caught up in all the busyness, people just become numbers and not a person. Whereas I guess in these smaller, tighter knit communities where they've got these community buyouts, I guess there's a greater sense of we're all in this together, and I can help you out, and it's a nice thing to do. And I think that's probably where society's failing in general, because it's just people are numbers and not people.